Hi everyone. In the first week of New Year, a colleague of mine received an email from a client who had just recently completed a purchase asking for help on a quick query. The email read, "We have recently received a couple of letters from organisations suggesting we can reclaim stamp duty on not just multiple dwellings but on carpets and curtains, etc. Is this viable and worth looking at, or a load of nonsense and best avoided?" Now, we were able to respond fairly quickly because fresh in our minds was a recent article which the Law Society had published on its website on stamp duty, land tax, SDLT refunds. The article was all about companies such as those who had approached our client, those companies encouraging buyers to make potentially unfounded claims. And the article asked solicitors to warn clients of the risks associated with using companies that claim to offer help with stamp duty, land tax refunds. And the Law Society have been aware that these organisations have been making these approaches to purchasers for some time. The way it works is that these organisations will make either an unsolicited approach to a property company or a more targeted approach. They'll have access to the section of the Land Registry portal known as the Day List, which enables them to view land registry applications that have recently been submitted against properties recently purchased and the names of the purchasers, and then they will write to those companies or purchasers offering their services. And their services will indicate that the purchaser may be entitled to a substantial SDLT refund and that they will deal with HMRC to amend the SDLT return and request a payment at a fee, at a commission for the agent of, say, 20% of the refund. Now, these companies are particularly interested in residential purchases or mixed use purchases, and they'll usually tell the buyer that they are entitled to multiple dwellings relief or that they should have paid at the lower commercial rate of SDLT because of some aspect of the property or the transaction. And in these cases, the potential SDLT reclaims could be substantial for two reasons. Firstly, the residential rate of SDLT is significantly greater than the commercial rate, and it could be 15% for a purchase of residential property by a company or other purchasers who are not individuals. And secondly, multiple dwellings relief allows SDLT rates to be applied to the average value of the collective properties instead of the total purchase price, which could reduce the SDLT charge significantly. Now, the Law Society in its article gives two fictional examples of the claims that could be made. In the first one, the fictional SDLT experts claim that a residential purchase of a 5-bedroom detached house costing 1.75 million should have had SDLT paid at the commercial rate of 77,000 rather than the residential rate of 123,000, a saving of 46 to 47,000 pounds, because the property was a mixed commercial residential property on the basis of a non-residential footpath running through the site. In the other worked example on the website article, the purchaser buys a 5-bedroom London townhouse for 2.35 million and pays just under £200,000 in SDLT. The experts assess that because the house has an internal annex with a bedroom and an ensuite bathroom, it's actually a multiple dwelling. It consists of multiple dwellings, therefore they could get multiple dwellings relief and obtain a refund of over £70,000 in the SDLT paid. Now, actual examples may be more complex and nuanced than those, but you can see that the potential refunds these organisations are looking for and their potential commission, if charged at say 20% of the refund, can be very significant. So the Law Society article warns that HMRC processes claims for repayments quickly, almost as an automatic process. HMRC doesn't make its considered assessment of the repayment application until some time later. In other words, the buyer may find that it easily gets the repayment from HMRC, thus the agents easily get their commission. However, at a later date, HMRC then assesses the application properly and decides that it has failed, either because it was spurious or because it was on the basis of a rationale that had already failed when HMRC had tested it before the courts. HMRC, therefore, in those circumstances, asks the buyer client to repay the reclaimed tax with interest at a time when the company making the claim for them has disappeared, or maybe that company is still about, but its terms and conditions do not entitle the poor buyer to reclaim its 20% or whatever commission. The buyer client could also be asked to pay a penalty to HMRC of up to 100% of the tax refund, and that can leave the buyer in a worse position than if they had not made a refund claim at all. For those reasons, these post-completion approaches from agents saying that they can save you SDLT are best avoided. The time for SDLT planning is before exchange of contracts, and the advice should be from tax lawyers or more conventional SDLT specialists. In the case we had, where our client received a couple of letters from organisations suggesting a claim on the basis of multiple dwellings relief, we'd already claimed that relief in the return submitted with the purchase, which the SDLT refund experts had no way of knowing. I'll see you all again in a fortnight's time.